So
record
I'll
my
just
own
record it as an
audio.
emergency, but just in case something gets fucked up or lost or like robot
Yeah.
voice kicks in.
Yeah, exactly. And plus I like having the visuals of like our icons and whatnot. So yeah, we're gonna have the James Gandolfini and the what is it, the cephalopod? I forget what it's called.
Anomalocaris.
Anomalocaris, that's what it was. Kamala Karis, of course.
Kamala Khan.
Kamala Khan.
If Miss Marvel was a dinosaur, she wouldn't actually be a dinosaur. She'd be this thing.
Yeah, she'd be that thing, exactly. Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Hal, and with me here today, William is back again. Oh, William. Back again, I see.
You told me to be here.
I did, didn't I? Oh, I'm sorry, William. I'm still a little tired. We're in a post-muck world, so, you know, things are a little...
That's a conversation. It's not going to make sense to anyone but us, but that's fine.
That's why I said it, so then people are just like, what are they talking about? And we can be like, oh, we're not going to tell you. Not yet, at least.
Things will get mucky if we do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's clear the air, William. Let's talk about what we came here to talk about today. That being a very special movie, a movie close to my heart that I was very excited for you to watch, and I'm very excited to share this. Sherlock Jr. from the legendary Buster Keaton.
You know, I remember a couple of years ago when you had to like watch silent movies for class, you always hated it, saying I don't like silent movies. And now here you are saying this is one of your favorite movies of all time.
Well,
the evolution.
That's half true. Okay, I loved silent comedies when I was watching silent films back in college. You're right. When like literally every other silent film we watched, like Birth of a Nation or
which is racist.
Which is racist and boring and just straight up awful. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But that's a conversation for a different day. But even stuff like that's heralded as like, you know, classics like Battleship Potemkin and The Last Laugh. It's like, okay, I could see why these were big in the day, but they have aged horribly, and I can't take any of them seriously.
It seems to me that like the ones that usually hold up are either the comedies, like you said, or the horror films.
Yeah, I definitely would argue it's the comedies that have aged the best because slapstick is forever. It's all visual. Horror, like I will forgive stuff like Nosferatu and Caligari because they're so like visually striking, and obviously paved the way for much better stuff.
It goes to the visuals.
Exactly, visuals. And same thing with Metropolis. Metropolis, I love purely from a visual standpoint, but I also do dig it as a film. I think that's like the one non-comedy silent film that I genuinely love, like a step above something like Nosferatu or Caligari.
The stuff that relies on the visuals holds better because that's all you really have.
Right.
When it's like a drama that you need the actual follow the plot for, that's where it's very limited by what they had available to them.
Right, very limited to what they had available, which is why I think comedy works so well because yes, it's visual, but also the story and the acting you're not supposed to take seriously anyway. So it's totally appropriate when you have like characters like acting all like bumbling goofballs and acting like really heightened, like they have very heightened emotions. It's like, okay, that kind of adds to what the movie's going for.
Especially in the case of Buster Keaton here, where like his whole shtick is that he shows no emotion ever.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a huge thing too. That's a good point because yeah, like a lot of stars back in the day, because again, you couldn't emote with your voice, you had to emote with your face, and they really emoted with their faces. And again, it got really goofy. And when I'm supposed to take something seriously, like the fucking massacre on those steps in Battleship Potemkin, I still don't know how to say it, but you know what movie I'm talking about.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, like there's like a scene where there's like, you know, a bunch of ships are like massacring a bunch of innocent civilians on like these stairs in some town, and you know, people are getting massacred, and then you see the people who are just like, oh, the horror, oh, and they're just like, you know, wide-eyed, and it's so goofy. Like, I'm laughing. I shouldn't be because innocent people are dying, so...
Well, you're also supposed to laugh at innocent people dying in one of the movies we're talking about today.
That's true. But we'll get to that.
I guess we should get into what movies we're specifically talking about here, because we're talking about a couple things.
Yeah, so basically, my main idea for this episode was to just talk about Sherlock Jr. Mainly, the reason we're recording on today, which is April 21st, 2024, today is the 100th anniversary of the movie Sherlock Jr. Like, it premiered 100 years ago today.
That's right, folks. Everyone in this movie is dead.
Womp womp. But yeah, so again, the original plan was just Sherlock Jr., but I own Sherlock Jr. on 2 different discs, and both discs, because Sherlock Jr. is only 45 minutes long, I guess they didn't want to waste all that space with just Sherlock Jr., so they had to fill each disc with like extras. One of the versions I have is the DVD that advertises Sherlock Jr. It also comes with a couple of Buster Keaton shorts, which we'll save again for later. But also the Blu-ray I have Sherlock Jr. on, which comes to us from the Cohen Film Collection, that has both Sherlock Jr. and The Navigator, which is a entirely different Buster Keaton movie. Like, it's like an actual feature-length film. Again, we'll get to it.
I like how the bonus on the disc is the longer movie.
Yeah. Well, it's not even really as a bonus. It's just they advertise both films being on here because it's like it's the Buster Keaton Collection Volume 2. I don't have Volume 1. I probably should have gotten Volume 1, but
you know what DVD I own that actually does do that though, where like the advertised movie is shorter than one of the bonus movies.
Oh, what's that? I gotta hear this.
It's Monsters Crash the Pajama Party.
Really?
Yeah, there's another extra movie on there that's actually over an hour long.
Oh,
I forget what it's called, but yeah, there's a bonus movie on there that's just like actually a movie.
That's funny. Yeah, because Monsters Crash the Pajama Party. Yeah, what was that? It was like 40 minutes.
Yeah, and like the whole gimmick with that thing is that like the menu is like a haunted house you're going through. Nothing is actually marked on there. You are just clicking on random shit and seeing, what did I find? Oh, here's a thing of a poster gallery of a bunch of old horror movies, and also they're playing radio spots for horror movies over them. Oh, here's a random short film of a guy who turns into a werewolf and then kills his girlfriend. That's like 5 minutes long.
Yeah. Neat. But none of them are marked, you said?
Yeah, because the whole gimmick is you're trying for a haunted house, so you just like are just exploring it and seeing whatever you can find.
Yeah, that just reminds me of the Memento DVD, DVD menu, which we've talked about a lot. But I love it, but I also hate it.
At least with Monsters, it's like it's a whole jokey thing anyway, so like it adds to it.
Right, exactly.
So do we start with the short film just to get them out of the way?
You know what? We might as well. The Playhouse. You want to start with that one? Because I think that's one of the older ones.
I feel like that might be the one that has like one of the most to say, if anything, just because, well, I guess most to say relatively. There's not that much to talk about with all three because they're 20 minutes long each, basically.
Give or take, yeah.
The thing with the Playhouse is that it really just feels like a special effects showcase for the time.
Yeah, which I feel like a lot of his movies and shorts kind of are, is just like him experimenting with the art of filmmaking. But this one very much so, yes, because the story is what story?
The story is parts of it get repeated in other movies, including the one we're talking about later.
Right, exactly.
Him waking up in a movie theater or playhouse or whatever is a common trope from what I've seen, apparently.
Yeah, maybe he lived in a theater.
My man just wanted to watch movies.
I can relate.
So this one, it's like the first half of it is like his dream, where like he is putting on a one-man show and that he has every role at the same time.
Yes.
And what it amounts to is a whole lot of not green screen, because that didn't exist yet, but like different techniques for compositing footage on top of footage. So you have like 5 Buster Keatons on screen all at the same time.
Yeah.
And like it actually is pretty neat and well done for the time, because like it is seamless.
It
It
is
works.
seamless. I
Yeah.
was I like you could tell like certain sections of the film were like kind of jumping up and down, whereas others weren't. So like you could tell, but at the same time, for the time, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
It does look really seamless.
And like the jokes there are mostly fine. The only
Yeah,
real sketchy thing is the obvious. Oh, it was 1920s, therefore people are racist, so there's blackface in it.
yeah. How
And
they
like
advertise
it's
the
like
fucking minstrel show. You're
yeah,
just like,
it's like
whoa.
but also they didn't focus on it. That was just like two
No.
shots of it ever, and like most of the
Yeah.
shots was with different Buster Keatons in the audience in different costumes, like the old woman and stuff.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, that makes us actually impressive. But then there's a blackface, which is racist. But also,
Yeah.
it looks like he didn't even have enough black paint to do it. Because some of it
Yeah.
just looks like he's tan.
Yeah.
It's like, you didn't even be racist correctly.
I did notice that. I'm just like, wait a
Like,
minute.
wait, is this blackface or I can't tell? Okay,
Dude,
that
is that
guy
fucking
is.
blackface?
What is that? Is that just a
Yeah.
demon from the woods?
Did he just get a really good tan? Does he
Maybe.
have does he have that iconic shrimp glow?
I mean, they live in California. They can just go to the beach whenever they want.
That is true. That is true.
So yeah, that's basically like the first half is like them putting on a show that you don't see and just looking at all the different gags in the audience and seeing Buster Keaton as an old woman and like an old man and a little boy and a mother.
Yeah.
And like it actually is really impressive makeup. Decently funny, not his best material. And then there's the second half, which like there's the twins. He keeps forgetting which one's his girlfriend.
Which is really funny because like the twins are played by actresses who are not twins in real life, and I just thought that was really funny because that's just a testament to how similar like silent actresses all looked alike.
Yeah, it's like the first one of the when I first watched Sherlock Jr. Like, is that the lady from Phantom of the Opera? No, it's just that there were classic Hollywood from this era had a type.
Yeah, they did have a type, short white woman with short hair.
Like
So
this is what every woman in these movies looks like, and it's like,
yeah,
damn. I don't know if that's fucked up for us saying they all look alike, or if it's fucked up on them for making it so that they had to look alike.
again, I still think the joke with the twins is still funny because
Mm.
even though they're not related, he still like confuses them. I don't know, just something about that is funny in and of itself.
It's like at the very end when he grabs the wrong one, like, oh wait, you're the wrong wife. Whoop!
Yeah,
And I'm just gonna draw a fucking X on you.
yeah, yeah. It's
This
like,
one.
yeah, this is the one that likes me.
Otherwise, it's just like a bunch of bumbling around the vaudeville theater.
Yeah. I like
Which,
the gag of him like filling up the little orchestra area with the water, and he's like in the drum as a boat, and he starts using the violin as like a paddle. Like that was funny.
I like how his first instinct is to try to get the water out with a teacup.
Yeah, that is classic Buster Keaton.
I like the in case for fire only uses the shaft of the guy's beard on fire.
Yeah. Oh, and one of the best gags, it's a little obvious gag, but like it's funny nonetheless, is when he like goes into work and like the punch clock says punch clock and he punches the clock.
Yeah, that's a Looney Tunes gag.
It is, but I mean, he came up with it first, so
Yeah, predates Looney Tunes because like the earliest ones were like 29, I think,
probably.
and those are the ones that didn't even have any of the recognizable characters yet.
Right, this was before Porky, Daffy, Bugs.
Yeah, because those guys wouldn't exist till, like the mid late 30s. Bugs himself was the 40s.
Yeah.
Which even that is hilarious to talk about. Like, oh, they were that late, right? But also they still predate Alaska and Hawaii becoming states.
We were talking about that recently, weren't we?
Yeah, it's like you always take for granted when some things happen. It's like, yeah, we know there's 50 states, but it's the fact of the matter is that like that's still a relatively recent thing in world history because that was
Yeah.
after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
There are people alive today who were born before those were states. But also another thing, like I mentioned to you in a DM, because I just thought about this, like watching Sherlock Jr. Because like they're in California and everything clearly, because that's where
Yeah.
Hollywood is making the movies. And I'm
Right.
just looking at this and like, this is the 1920s. You know, the Wild West, the period that is generally considered the Wild West, was from the 1860s up until and through the 1890s. That had only been like Hollywood for like 15, 20 years at that point. There are people alive in these movies who were probably around for when the tail end of the cowboy age.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's
just
just
so crazy to think about that
it is really nutty to think
the
about.
20
Yeah.
years before that movie was made, that was still like technically like ranches and Wild West places.
Yeah.
That was a sentence.
No, but you're right. Like it's just nutty to think about that, like how close that was compared to now.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw, indeed.
Buster Keaton wouldn't have been around for that though, because he was both born in the mid 1890s and also in Kansas, I think.
Yeah, 1895 is when he
Yeah,
was born.
but like his parents, I mean, they were also in the Midwest, so that wouldn't have mattered. But
Yeah. Yeah.
there were probably some people who were in California around that time.
No, absolutely.
So it's like, damn. So the gap between the Wild West in these movies is about as big as a gap as right now in the 80s for us.
Just like how we're nostalgic for the 80s nowadays, they were nostalgic for the Old West back in the 20s.
I mean, it's also probably why there were so many Westerns in like the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Ah. It's all
I mean,
coming
that probably
together.
because they probably had like the stories from the parents.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the 50s and 60s is also when they made the monster movies because of the bombs. And then 30 years later in the 80s, they made a bunch of monster movies because they grew up the monster movies.
Yeah.
And then
And
they made
now
Back to the Future, which went back to the Old West. It all comes together, baby.
ay ay ay.
What else we're talking about the Playhouse? There's a monkey in it.
There is a I told you
For
I
2
was
seconds, there's a monkey in it.
but there is a monkey, and then Buster Keaton is a monkey,
Yeah, the monkey goes missing because he takes his eyes off of it, so he has to dress up like a monkey.
and people fall for it.
I don't know if they fall for it, but the wall falls for it.
That's a good point.
And you know, like you had to do all this shit for real back then. So like
Oh
that
yeah.
wall actually had to fall, which means that guy needed to know the timing of when the wall was gonna fall, or else he would have just fucking died on screen.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stunts in in this movie and in like the other movies we'll be talking about and other Buster
Specifically
Keaton
one in
movies.
there's specifically one in Sherlock Jr. to talk about too. You know the one.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Took him 10 years to notice that. Great doctors.
Very great doctors.
What else is to say about the Playhouse?
Pretty standard. I'm not a fan of the minstrel show, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't take up that much space in the short.
You don't even see much of it either.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like it's only there because it was the 20s and therefore they were a thing that
Yeah.
happened.
Exactly. Yeah. So on to something less racist. The pale face. Oh.
Oh. And well, honestly, like in this one, it's also like I think the natives are played by white people, so they also had to actually use red face, probably.
Probably. I know like a lot of the major Native American characters were definitely played by white people. I
Yeah.
don't know about the background.
Some of them probably were actual natives because, like, you still lived in California in the
Yeah.
West. They
Yeah.
could go to a refuge camp or a reservation.
Right. It has to be because like I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure like some of the background extras I'm just like, yeah, there's no way that's a white person. But then
They didn't have enough
again,
paint back then.
right, yeah. Exactly. Listen, if we can run out of pink paint in the modern day, they didn't have a lot back in that day.
They did have asbestos, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They had an abundance of asbestos.
Enough to make a shirt and pants out of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's a stereotype, but like I do kind of like the part where like when they start dancing and Buster Keaton just like doesn't even bat an eye and just starts dancing with them.
Yeah, no, that's that again. Like Buster Keaton has this again, like we were saying, he's very stoic, very stone faced, and it just adds to the comedy because he'll just like, yeah, like you said, he just joins in the dancing.
He's like, "Oh, this is what I'm doing. Okay, I'm fine."
Okay, yeah.
He just kind of like bumbles into the camp trying to catch a butterfly.
Well, that's the funny part. So like, yeah, so the Native Americans are just like, all right, the first white man that walks onto our walks in here, we're gonna kill, and then he just walks in with a butterfly net. It's just like, oh,
And they don't even try to kill him right away. It's like they just kind of like look at him like, "Bro, what
yeah,
the fuck?"
Yeah, just like, what's this white boy doing?
It's like, this clearly isn't the guy we're after, but also what the fuck.
Yeah.
So like the actual plot is that like a bunch of like oil tycoons or something, rich white people want to like bulldoze over their reservation,
Yeah.
and they don't like that. So like we're gonna kill these guys when they show up.
Yeah.
Which honestly, good.
Yeah, yeah, that's what there's. Yeah, exactly. You're rooting for them there.
It's like, no, yeah, these guys are fine. Correct. CEO's
Exactly.
fucking with you, beat them up.
Exactly. Yeah.
They have every right.
Yeah, and then but then they like take Buster Keaton and they like burn him at the stake, but then he just doesn't die when he's set on fire, and then they're just like, all right, you're one of us now.
Because he's wearing a fireproof asbestos undershirts.
Yeah.
Which, that's the second time they try to light him on fire. The first time, it's like they put him on the stake, but they didn't stake him to the ground correctly, so he just keeps getting up.
Yeah.
In the version of the short I watched, they actually added some sound effects here and there for things in the score. When he bends over to hit the guy with the wood, there's a little bonk sound.
Oh, good. Excellent.
When he like trips someone over with a thing, it plays like a comedy whoosh sound.
Nice. Nice.
They added a gunshot to when the guy tries to shoot him.
Okay.
I don't remember if there was anything else, but like those were there in the version I watched.
That's excellent. So the version I watched, I guess I can get a little into it, is because it's on this DVD. This fucking scam of a DVD. They just played the most generic like silent film scores you could ever imagine. Like, picture in your mind, you, the audience, whoever, just like picture in your mind what you hear when you hear the words silent film score. That's exactly what plays during.
So Maple Leaf Rag, got it.
Yeah, exactly. It was, and it was not even like edited properly. Like, they just took like all these generic tracks and just put them there, and you can even hear like when the track stops and when the next one starts. Like, they don't even try. It's distracting.
You know, mine did have a proper score for it because like it actually did like change in tone with the music for all of them.
Yeah, no, that's what the Blu-ray does. Like for Sherlock Jr. and the Navigator, is like the music actually goes along with the visuals, which is correct. Like, that's how like, yes, silent films are meant to be silent. Like, you know, the music is not supposed to matter, but it is.
Well, they would still have people playing music though. Like we see in Sherlock Jr., they have like the actual pit for the orchestra there in the theater.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
They did make scores for them. They just like send them out to the theaters and like they would just play them.
Yeah.
Not every theater would get them, and they have to like make up their own stuff, which is why there's always variants. But like there were scores.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
In this day and age, like people will actually like straight make original scores for things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and they sound beautiful. Like, they're amazing.
The Blu-ray Half a Family Opera has like 2 or 3 different options for scores.
Oh, that's awesome.
And like that part of that is also a matter of, well, the movie is public domain, but the score isn't.
Right.
That's the gimmick.
Right, which is why this DVD from fucking Alpha Video was able to be made, because they're just like, the movie's in public domain. We can just do whatever we want. It's fucking hacks.
And then they just put like public domain recordings over it.
Yeah, it's so annoying. I mean, look, I like that like kind of campy silent film score with like the piano. Like, it's fun, but the way they did this was lazy, and I hate it.
I actually have a DVD from Alpha Video, but I just never actually watched it yet. It's for White Zombie, the Bela Lugosi movie. And like I can probably just get a Blu-ray of that in this day and age now too.
Right.
If I actually want to watch it. Because that's a known movie.
Right.
Because, you know, Bela Lugosi's in it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, after they take him in, he gets another wife, because Buster Keaton always gets a wife.
Yeah.
And then they go to the oil tycoon's office and just beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And then the one guy chases them out, and then there's another tribe for some reason that played strip poker and lost all their clothes.
Yeah, they make it a point to point that out.
It's like, oh, these savages who lost all their clothes playing strip poker. What?
Yeah. Well, so here's the confusing part, is that so he chases the oil tycoon. The oil tycoon makes him switch clothes with him. And so then he's like...
His tribe thinks he's the oil tycoon, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah, and then he meets that other tribe, and he's like, "No, guys, it's me." It's like, okay, so you're racist because you don't recognize your own tribe, but then
Right.
his other tribe doesn't recognize him immediately, so they're racist for not recognizing him. So it's like, oh, everybody's racist.
They were from a distance.
Yeah, that's true
They just
too.
saw the clothing.
Yeah,
But like he also knows that his tribe wore his clothing.
right.
Also,
So,
this is how I found out that strip poker still existed in the 20s.
but does strip poker exist now?
Well, yes, it's strip poker, but like I didn't think they would do strip poker in the 20s. When was strip poker invented?
Mm,
I know
I'd like
strip Monopoly didn't exist yet because Monopoly didn't exist yet.
and Friday the 13th wasn't around yet.
Oh, that was on the calendars.
Right, but I'm talking. Damn it. But yeah,
I like that they have to build a bridge.
that was pretty funny. How you have like a certain amount of like wood planks on the rope bridge, and he just like takes them away and like puts them on the other side, and then he just like builds his way over to the other side.
That's a Looney Tunes gag.
Yeah, it's except he's actually doing it in IRL, and it still like transfers over the comedy.
And then when he finally gets back over to his other tribe for a second, he forgets it's them and jumps off the cliff.
Yeah. Which, cool that he jumped off a cliff, but it's just like,
Those are your friends.
Yeah,
You knew this.
you should know this exactly. Yeah. Again, I get it. These shorts are like what 20 minutes long, so like the story is not the main point, but like I don't know. It's just stupid at times. Which again, it leads to some really impressive stunts and visual gags. Like that's what I'm here for. It's just that those stunts and visual gags don't really save these movies like they do in something like The Navigator or Sherlock Jr. But
Yeah. I think this is probably like the weakest of the free shorts.
I think so too, yeah. I still like it, but...
And then we had The Frozen North.
The Frozen North.
Which, I forget where I actually put this, but like this might be the best one because it's just about how Buster Keaton's an asshole and wants to shoot people.
Yeah, I read somewhere that this is supposed to be like a parody or like a satire.
Yeah.
Of like something, but like again, because it's from like over a century ago, the satire doesn't really click with us because we don't know what it's satirizing. Much like some of the Looney Tunes shorts we watched during the 50 of the greatest cartoons VHS. How like, oh, this is a satire. It's like, okay, the only one I recognized was the Fantasia one.
Yeah, or is like how Steamboat Willie is named after Steamboat Bill Jr.
Directed by Buster Keaton.
Damn, it all comes back around.
But yeah, the Frozen North. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he plays like this asshole who just like walks into a house, thinks his wife is cheating on him, shoots the woman and the man, and he's like, "Oh wait, this isn't my wife or my house."
And then he just leaves without saying anything. And it never comes back up again.
Yeah.
Which, again, another testament of how Hollywood makes all the women look alike in the 20s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute, this isn't my wife?
But then he has a wife, but he's sick of her. But then, like, then he tries to hit on another woman later in the film. Yeah, he's just, like, a straight-up, like, menace to society in this one.
Yeah. He deserves to get shot in the end.
Does he?
He gets shot for the window.
Oh, yeah.
And then he, like, with his dive tries to shoot them again, and then he wakes up.
And then he wakes up, and the concessions cleanup guy at the theater is just like, hey, the movie's over. And then the movie's over. I definitely compared this one to Hundreds of Beavers, though, upon my recent watch, because, again, it's a silent black and white film up in the north, and there's this crazy dude going on these wacky adventures. But obviously, I prefer Hundreds of Beavers, so...
Right. I don't remember that much of what happened in this one, and I watched it yesterday.
Whereas I remember a lot of the gags from Hundreds of Beavers, so pretty telling.
There was the part where there's just like a random subway stop in the middle of nowhere in the north.
Yeah, that's how they start the movie off. They're just like, oh, Keaton takes the subway to Canada. And it's just like, okay. Like, it's such a confusing joke to start the movie off with. It's like, when you like start in New York, take the subway, and then get to you know what? Who
There's
cares?
the joke where like he tries to rob the place, so he
Yeah.
uses the cardboard cutout, and the only one smart enough to realize it is the drunk guy who just kind of
Yeah,
pokes it.
the town drunk who pokes it over, and then everyone's just like, "Wait a minute."
And that's the movie.
Yeah, this is the shortest one at 18 minutes, I believe.
Oh, Buster.
So, yeah, these shorts are interesting and unique for sure in their own way. But they're definitely not what I like remember fondly when I think of my favorite Keaton stuff.
They're just kind of there.
Yeah, exactly. I respect them and I'm glad he was able to make them, but, I do prefer more of his like feature length stuff, which we can get into right now if you want.
Which do you want to talk about first?
Um, I guess I really do want to talk about Sherlock Jr. because that's what the episode is about.
The big one,
So
which
the
isn't
big,
the longest one, but it's the big one.
it is the big one because it is my absolute favorite Buster Keaton movie. Like, and probably, I'm willing to say this is my favorite silent film of all time.
This is also, I think, is like one of the ones that usually gets brought up the most when talking about
Hmm.
his stuff. Like,
Yes.
I think I saw on the Wikipedia page that there was like a quote from Orson Welles about it.
Mm.
Which, Orson, I think, he has clout.
He has clout. He made a couple of those movies. You probably heard of him. What's It's and Whatnot.
It was put in the National Film Registry in back in 1991.
Mm.
So like it's been there for a while.
Yeah.
You can watch the whole short on the Wikipedia page
Really? That doesn't surprise me. I
because it's
mean,
public domain.
it's public domain, exactly. We've seen Steamboat Willie on the Wikipedia page, so
There's a gag from this movie that was reused in James Bond's The Living Daylights in 1987.
really.
Buster jams on the brakes of the car he's driving, causing the chassis to stop and the body to keep going.
Hmm.
A gag reused in the James Bond film The Living Daylights.
Right, yeah, because he's driving the car and it's a four wheel brake car, so like all four wheels brake at the same time, causing the undercarriage to just stop, but the whole like car to like go into the water. I didn't realize that it was reused in Living Daylights. Interesting.
Okay, maybe the quote was on Orson Welles, was on the Navigator.
Mm.
Now I gotta check that one because that also we will have to look at that too because of the information about the making of that one.
Right.
So, Sherlock Jr., run us through like the plot quick.
So according to Letterbox, the plot goes as such. A film projectionist longs to be a detective and puts his meager skills to work when he is framed by a rival for stealing his girlfriend's father's pocket watch. Oh, wow, that's just the first 20 minutes. Okay. Well, not even the first 20 minutes, like the first 10 minutes, actually. Oh, boy, Buster. I mean, yeah, because like that's basically it. Is like just this dude who he's a film projectionist. He's studying to be a detective, and he tries to solve the case of the missing watch because his girlfriend's father's watch goes missing. It doesn't go missing. The sheik steals it for money, and then he's framed for it. And then he just goes back. He works his film projections job. He then falls asleep and has a dream where he does solve a mystery, and his girlfriend solves the case anyway in real life.
Yep.
Yeah. Which, again, this is not a movie that focuses on the story, as is typical of most silent comedies. Like, the story is very much in the background. What is in the foreground are the visual gags, the jokes, the stunts being performed. Like, that's why Buster Keaton is remembered so fondly years later.
There's also some very impressive effects work on here that is, I think, would have been impressive even like the 80s.
Yeah. It's insane, like the amount of effort and talent that goes into these stunts. I'm like, and this is the reason why, like, when I first watched this back in college, I made a video essay for my final project on this movie. More specifically, like this one sequence in the movie that I've gushed about for years that I still can't stop thinking about because I think it's like one of the most impressive stunts I've ever seen in a film.
I'm
Which,
assuming it's the obvious one.
well, so it's the one where he jumps through a window is now in a dress. Are you familiar? You're familiar with that scene?
Oh, I was thinking about the train.
Well, the train. Well, we could talk about the train one too. I mean, because there's so much to talk about with this film. But yeah, the train one, yeah, where he's like walking across the train and then like gets on top of like the water tower.
Yeah, because like this is the 1920s.
Yeah,
You have to, if you're doing something, you have to actually do it.
yeah,
So like you actually
exactly.
had to get the train, you actually have to walk across it in that shot, jump onto the thing, and then it actually goes down. And then this is like an important thing too for the trivia.
Mm,
When he gets onto the bottom of the spout, the water actually turns on and pushes him downward.
yes.
In real life, when that happened, the water pushed him down much harder than he thought it was going to. So he
Yeah.
slammed down on the ground, hitting the rail, his head on the rail.
Oh, dude.
And like you don't see this in the film, but like it said after the fact, like in real life, he blacked out after that happened, and like for like a month straight would keep getting like horrible migraines because of it.
Yeah.
And then when he was at a doctor's appointment about 10 years later, the doctor, like on an x-ray, noticed you have a callus over like a fracture on your neck. And basically the be all end of it was when that happened, he broke his fucking neck
Ay, ay, ay.
and didn't notice for 10 years.
10 years.
My man broke his neck making this movie,
Yeah.
literally, unironically, and didn't notice.
This is why, you would never do that in the modern day.
It's like there's like a big thing about the silent source stars suffering for the art, with Buster Keaton almost killing himself with this,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
Lon Chaney like maiming and like just massacring his face for every movie.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna shove barbed wire up my mouth.
Oof. Insanity. And it looks impressive again, like because you actually see him get hurt, but it's still an impressive. And here's the thing: is like you didn't necessarily need that scene in the movie because it's basically it happens after he's following the Sheik.
Yeah,
Because he's like pursuing him because he's like read in his detective manual. It says like pursue your like shadow your man, and he's like pursuing him, like walking behind him. And so then when he's like found out, he just like tries to hide in like one of the train carts. The Sheik like closes the door on him, and you could just like you know
and the scene
interpret
there.
yeah end the scene there and just be like, oh, he just goes back to his projectionist job. But they went out of their way to show him leaving the train in like a spectacular fashion where he's like running on top of it, like gets on top of the water faucet, it pours down onto him.
And
But
then
then
the two
again,
guys on like the cart behind it, like also get
yeah,
splashed with the water, and they
yeah,
just
and then
chase him into the sunset.
they chase him into the sunset. Well, it does lead to that great moment where like it goes to the next title card and it's just like, well, as a detective he was all wet. So, which again, funny. It really adds to the movie's sense of humor. But like I guess that is a better transition, to show like, oh, he's really defeated, but he's also wet from all the water and the fact that it caused him to get a concussion.
So he goes to his job as a projectionist, doing a mystery movie, and he falls asleep in the booth, which
Yeah.
causes him to have a dream sequence of him literally going into the movie.
Yeah, which he imagines like all the characters in the movie are played by the people he knows, like the Sheik, his girlfriend's father, the girlfriend's father's assistant.
And like the way he goes into the movie, he literally just like crawls up on the screen, just walks inside of it.
Yeah, no, it's a really famous shot. Well, one of the things I love is like when he like first like enters into like the dream state, he's just like, he's like asleep, and then like, a ghost version of him like leaves his body and he's just like walking around normally. One of my favorite gags is like when he like goes to like grab his hat off the wall, he grabs the hat, but like the hat still stays there, but he still has the second hat. So it's like the hat's soul comes with him and he just walks away. I think
Buster
that's
Keaton, There
I
are
think that's really
running gags
funny.
in all these movies about the hat.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. We'll get to the navigator with the hat running gag, but like I just love how he's like he just picks up the hat and it still remains there, but he still has it. It's fucking fantastic. But yeah, to go on to like yeah, he like is like watching the movie in the theater, and then he like goes up to the screen and you just see him like walk into the screen, which was like, that was huge back in the day. Now, I obviously, you look at it, you're just like, okay, what they did is they probably just like made this like, cut out this hole and just like
Yeah.
had like, the scene within to make it look like it's in the screen so you can just walk in. To me, the most impressive part is when he's like in the movie screen and it keeps like editing to like all these different like locations and he's like interacting. I think the editing in that part is so fucking seamless for like the time, because like because remember they're dealing with film, so like you really had to time it perfectly in order for it to look just as seamless. Now, I will say the me using my film brain, I'm just like, okay, so he's going to all these different locations. Is that happening in the movie? Like you're just going to like, the ocean, the street where the cars are running by. You go to this lion's den. It's like, what does this have to do with the movie? But it's
The
just
answer
like,
is now it's a dream.
now it's a dream, and he's just going to all these different locations because he can.
But also he's a projectionist, so he's probably seen the movie before.
Right, that too.
And yeah, I'm looking at it, and basically, yeah, the way they did the walking into the movie scene, it's just we built the stage with the big black cutout screen, and then we just put the front row seats and orchestra pit there.
Yeah.
So it is just a set, but it's a good looking set. It works.
It is a very good looking set, and again, like I still think it looks impressive for the time. Like they still had to build the set, and then like you have like all this space. Like that's still impressive nonetheless. But yeah, I just love how he's like, oh, he's in the desert. He walks up onto a pile of sand, and then all of a sudden he's on the ocean, and he's like literally same exact spot. Like it's so seamless. Like it's so impressive for the time.
There's like a big famous effect is the suitcase.
Oh, so that happens after my favorite scene, which again is the jumping through the dress. But we could talk about the suitcase.
I mean, if you want to talk about the dress first, just like
Yeah,
set
because it happens before the suitcase. So yeah, he's captured by the bad guys, and he's then like the bad guys are like taunting him with like the pearls because he's like searching for the pearls. Which, by the actually, real quick, I just love how they like hype him up in his dream as like, oh, the world's greatest detective. Like when the father calls for Sherlock Jr. and the Sheik and the butler are just like, oh no, he's calling the world's greatest detective Sherlock Jr. It's just like it's so like it's just so funny. And then like the way he acts, he's like acts like this really cool guy. Really, very much would happen in Buster Keaton's mind in this movie. Like he's so full of himself, but like that adds to the comedy. But anyway, to talk about the actual sequence I'm hyping up. Yeah, so there's so much set up though. Which okay, so he has like this like circular container that has like a woman's dress in it, and he like puts it up against the window, and so then you see like the outside view of the building, and you have like they like took out the wall so then you can like see into the building, so you see them in like surrounding the table, like him and the goons. And then he like takes the pearls and jumps through the window, and he's all of a sudden wearing the woman's clothes. Like that to me blew my mind when I first watched it, and I cannot stop thinking about this because like I have to think about like how pinpoint accurately he has to like jump through the window to then get the dress on, like as he's midair jumping through the window has to put on the dress. Like then the fact he did that all in one take, like that's impressive. I'm sure he had to do it multiple times, but it's just such a brilliant sequence, and it only happens for like a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I just rewatched the scene quick now, and like yeah, it's very smooth.
Yeah.
And it's not really something you'd think about too often either.
No, like again, like the fact that it took all that planning, and like I just have not stopped thinking about it because it's so impressive. Like, because I was thinking about this. I was like, okay, maybe what he did is like he like filmed a scene where he jumps through the window, but then like there's another scene where he's already in the dress and he jumps through the window to make it look like, and then they like put those two together. But I don't think it's like trick editing with that, where they have like two different sequences. I think it is all just one continuous shot.
Plus, like the paper thing breaks too, so like the
Exactly.
continuity would need to be there.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think he just nailed getting into that dress while jumping through there. It's really really impressive. But yeah, so the suitcase. I want to talk about the suitcase
Yeah.
because I was just recently thinking, because I've recently rewatching this. I'm just like, how did they do the suitcase? So do you want to describe the sequence?
So he's being chased by the goons right after the dress thing. He gets cornered. There's someone with like a suitcase that points to inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
He faces off against the goons, and then they chase him. He jumps into the suitcase through the top of it, through the woman, or
Yeah.
wherever that is, and is just gone.
Yeah. Now I'm looking at the scene, and like I feel like to set it up, yeah, I would say like, the guy, his like assistant, that's who the woman is. He's like, I feel like they had like a trick body where like, to make it look like he's still standing there, but like, his head is like head is like through there. Like one of those like what is it, like those like little boards that have like that face cut out that you could just like put your head in, and like, it's like kind of like a trick like that.
Okay,
But
so the
like,
Wikipedia article does actually explain how it was done.
oh dude, you need to explain
Yeah.
this to me,
The
please.
the trick was accomplished with a trapdoor behind the suitcase and an actor lying horizontally with long clothes hiding his absent bottom torso.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically they're just like lying on like a board, basically.
Right. But the thing that really fucks with me is that like he immediately like walks away. Like the guy in the dress immediately walks away. So it's like, how did they do that? Like, cause like, cause like that's what I was thinking is like, okay, it's like seamless, like he just like jumps right into the suitcase and then the guy like walks away. Like the dress guy walks away. Like, uh, like that's what fucking like fucks with me. It's like, okay, he could do like the horizontal board, but like did it take him like a second to then just like get right back into the actual dress? Like,
It might have been like optical, like in multiple cuts, but it was just so seamless that you can't even tell.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm like looking at it, I can't tell. Like it, yeah, no, like no actors jump in between frames. Like it's so fucking seamless. Like,
And like there are
holy
other
shit.
moments in some of these movies where you do see like jumps and cuts like
Yeah,
that, but like not here.
not
Like that's what I'm
here.
saying. That like an effect like that would have still been impressive in like the 70s or 80s.
Yeah, it's impressive now. Like again, like I'm like keep rewinding this one sequence and I'm like, how did they fucking do that? I just like, even you explaining it to me, I'm just like, okay, but how did they achieve that? Like again, how did they achieve then,
Making
the
it
guy
so
just
smooth.
making it so smooth. Exactly. Exactly. Like it doesn't take away from the magic because I'm still just like thinking about like how this actually came together. And again, it's for just like a 5 second like gag.
It's like how exactly how it was done, but it's just done so well that it's like it still feels like magic.
It still feels like magic. Exactly.
And that's like one of the things where like I like knowing how these things are done sometimes, because like you can appreciate the trick even more when you know how it's done and how well
Hmm.
it's done.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very impressive because again, this was like early on in cinema. So like these people are pretty much like inventing these techniques, so
Yeah.
to say. Like that's what makes it even more impressive. The fact that like, you don't have computers, you don't have like the experience of like, the late 20th century, like when, practical effects were like really starting to be perfected. Like they didn't have that. So
Yeah, it's
like,
like looking at things like Phantom of the Opera's makeup and like with Lon Chaney. You look at King Kong, like a lot of the techniques that we take for granted nowadays, like rear view projection and stuff,
mhm.
those are being invented at that point.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and again, like King Kong and Phantom of the Opera, this movie still predates those. Like
Yeah.
that's how old this is.
And
Like,
this is a comedy.
and this is a comedy. You don't think of comedies nowadays as being inventive.
Yeah. For all intents and purposes, this movie is a joke and it's
Yeah,
doing incredible shit like this.
exactly. And that's what I love so much about it. It's being so inventive and it's and it's aged so brilliantly. And again, because it's a comedy, because this visual stuff, I'm still impressed with years and years later.
And there's even just some other like gags that like aren't technically impressive but are still funny. Like when he buys the box of chocolates for his girlfriend, it only
Oh,
costs him $1, so he's
yeah.
like, to make it seem like he spent more on her to make her feel better, he just adds a little dash to make it a 4.
Yeah, that's funny. What I love about that shot of like especially on the Blu-ray quality of him, like, it's like zoomed in on him like drawing the 4, like you can see like the wrinkles in his hand. I'm just like, "Oh shit." Like the camera quality was like really good back in the day, or like at least the restoration was really fucking good.
That's the thing you gotta remember, that like film like just has a lot of this is like a thing that comes up with like Blu-ray restoration stuff, is that the
Yeah.
reason like older films tend to look better in restorations than the digital stuff nowadays is because film has so much data in it
Yeah.
that like when it gets restored, it actually does just look so much better. That's why
Yeah.
like some people like the 4K transfer like older movies than the new stuff. Because
Yeah.
like there's a ceiling with the new stuff. But with the film, there's so much data there that you're uncovering.
Yeah, and it's
That's
just
something
it's
that like I think people don't realize about these movies when like people will say, not everything needs a 4K transfer, doesn't need to look that good. You're actually wrong, because the thing that you're missing out is that the way we watched a lot of movies at home for the past couple decades was on VHS tapes and other mediums on televisions at home that, objectively speaking, TVs kind of sucked.
yeah.
Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
TVs sucked back in the day.
Yeah.
The super compressed VHS qualities in old DVDs are not how the movies actually originally looked.
Mhm.
We've been watching inferior versions of them for the past couple of decades. The
Oh
point
yeah.
of 4K is that it's actually making it look like film.
Look like film,
So like when
exactly.
you're saying that like it doesn't need to look that good, no, because it
No.
it was always supposed to look this good. It
Right.
looked this good when it first came out. We
Exactly.
just been watching that shitty VHS tape on a CRT for the past couple decades.
Yeah, which
So
is
we
why
forgot that it was supposed to be this good to begin with.
I've never argued for VHS, like which is why I don't collect VHSs because they're the superior version or because like, I love watching them on the like they're awful. VHS quality sucks. Like it is objectively bad. So like I keep it for the aesthetic. It is purely aesthetic reasons, but you're absolutely right. Like, yeah, no, it's
And
it's
also
just
just the collector appeal.
of course. But because I feel like because people will like argue like, oh, I collect vinyl not just because it's like aesthetically pleasing, but because like it is like the superior way to listen to music. It's like, well, yeah, but that's vinyl. Like VHS is not vinyl, not even close.
Yeah. It's like we're finally just getting to the point where like we can actually like show the movies at home the way they were always supposed to be seen.
Yeah, yeah, which is good. I'm glad. I want. Yeah, we need more of this. We need more of this.
So yeah, the answer is like film just looks great. So in the restoration of the done well, you got to see all that detail again.
Yeah,
The
again.
catch for like stuff from this era is that like a lot of those reels are now damaged.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it's like you're usually not gonna get a great restoration out of them all the time.
You can definitely tell there were some bits during the movie that weren't restored as well as the others. And it even says like during like on the Blu-ray version that I have, like it actually says like, yeah, some of these were like lifted from like other versions. I
Yeah.
forget like the
There's
exact
some
details,
Yeah.
but
Some of
yeah.
them like you can tell like there's a really quick edit that's like, oh, that was right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But for being 45 minutes long, I think what they were able to salvage, it looks great.
Yeah, because I think like some these they probably don't have the original negative.
No.
Like you see like the 4K restorations like Dracula and Frankenstein, those are from copies. They do not
Yeah.
have the original version of Dracula anymore.
No. Yeah,
You do
no.
not
I
have the original copy of the original Godzilla anymore. That
no.
is gone. These are copies of these are restorations from copies of the originals that we're
Yeah.
watching.
I always tell people because I learned this in college. I may be butchering the actual timing, but basically 90% of movies made before like the 1920s are just gone. Like
Even
not
in the
even
20s.
even in the 20s, yeah, like
Before the 30s, it's 90% like before the 30s is just
yeah,
gone.
they're just gone straight up. Like not even just like, like we were saying, like the negatives, like straight up movies don't
They're
exist.
gone.
Like they're gone. Just lost to time. Tears in the
Yeah.
Rain.
We do not
Gone.
have most of Lon Chaney's filmography gone. On all accounts, Phantom of the Opera, the fact that it still exists in any form is a miracle, because
Yeah.
it looks like the versions we have are like copies from low quality play at home versions they made in like the 50s.
Yeah.
It's a miracle we still have that movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's just film history, film preservation back in the 20s was a joke. Like,
Yeah, and even some of the movies that we do have are just missing chunks. We talked about
yeah.
Metropolis earlier.
Yeah.
We do not have the whole film of Metropolis.
Not entirely, no.
I think we're missing like what 20 minutes of the movie or something like that.
I feel like the version I do have on Blu-ray like talks about how it does have like the missing sequences, or I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering.
It's the most complete version.
Most complete. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
There are
yeah.
things still missing, and they have like interstitials to say, "Here's what you missed."
Yeah. Oh, but that's what. Yeah, that and Metropolis. Metropolis, one of the most famous silent films in history, is not
have
complete.
the whole movie.
Yeah, so think about what other silent films, whether they are missing parts or just straight up don't exist no more. Like I think you told me like there was like there's some special feature I have on my Frankenstein DVD, the original Frankenstein DVD release from like the late 90s. There's like as like a special feature, it has like this weird like
right.
Mystery Science Theater thing where like this guy just like took like all these different clips from different movies and just like put voiceover over them making jokes. And there's clips in that have like there's clips from like an actual missing movie we were talking about. What was it? Like the Black Cat?
Yeah, something. I think it was the Black Cat.
Yeah.
Where that movie is lost.
Yeah, that's just straight up lost media. So like the clips in that little like ostensibly a YouTube poop, those are all we have of that movie.
This is nowhere for having the only remaining footage of the Cat Creeps.
The Cat Creeps, that's what it was, yeah.
There's a remake of the Cat Creeps in the 40s, but the version in the 30s is gone.
It's straight up gone. That fucks with my head, though. Like, 90% of films. Like, we have a lot from the silent era. We have a lot.
So much more, though.
But there was so much more, and it's just straight up gone. Like, that's why, like, the silent era and, like, these like, first 20 to 30 years of the 20th century in terms of film fascinates me so much because, the stuff we have is fascinating to look at and the stuff we don't have is just as fascinating. Like it's just a very fascinating era. And then you actually watch a lot of these movies. A lot of them suck because, it was the early days of film. Like straight up people were just inventing stuff. Like this was the era where like, you could edit, like the concept of basic editing was, flabbergasting to people. Well, no, like there's like this one like film I remember from back in the day where it was like a bunch of firefighters are like going up into like a building and like, it cuts to them inside the building. And that was a lot for people, which that's just a basic editing trick of like, okay, you're going on to the next scene. Like that blew people's minds back in the day. But like, us nowadays, we're just like, yeah, that's just basic editing. You need to do that in order to progress the story.
It's like you go back to like Lon Chaney for saying like a famous film for him is London After Midnight, and that movie is famous for two reasons. Reason one is because allegedly after watching the movie, some guy in the 20s fucking killed someone because of it. Like the movie like told him he like watched the movie and it fucked with his head, and it basically he like decided Lon Chaney's haunting me, so he just killed someone.
Yeah.
So it was infamous for that. The second reason is because also that movie's lost now.
Yeah.
We only have promo pics of Lon Chaney's costume in that movie.
Ugh, it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, that movie is like famous because of that murder case and also because it's lost.
It's just lost.
It was also like one of the last movies he was ever in before he died.
Yeah.
Because shortly after that, he was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And a fun fact is that like there was one other movie released after that, and it was the first movie of his where he actually it was a soundy.
Yeah, it was a soundy.
It was a
talkie.
talkie. Yeah, where
Talkie.
it actually had he actually spoke, and
Yeah,
that was his last movie.
that was his last movie. Yeah, I
He
remember
died
reading
with
up on that.
he died with the silent era.
Yeah. Oh, that's spooky, but also just like fascinating
And like
nonetheless.
I don't know if that movie is available either. That might also be lost. I don't remember.
I think it's on Letterbox, but I don't know. That may not
Oh,
matter.
they also have some lost movies on Letterboxd too, because
Yeah.
because they just get their information from the movie database and stuff, and like those
Right.
movies existed, so they're on the database to show they existed, but you can't obviously you can't watch them.
It's just when people probably log them, they're just like, I watched it. It's just like, well, you're a fucking liar.
It's just a meme, or like they're
Yeah.
just like talking about it in general.
Yeah.
No one has actually today seen King Kong appears in Ito.
Actually, you know what? That is fair because there was this lost JoJo's Bizarre Adventure movie from like I want to say the late 2000s. This was like before the anime even happened, and I remember finding like a print copy of it from like because like it's considered lost media now because it was never actually finished. No, it wouldn't be considered lost media because
That would just be unfinished.
it's unfinished media. But I remember finding it on Letterboxd and I just used it to review the anime. I don't know if it's still up. It might not be up on Letterboxd anymore though, because again, it's unfinished.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like technically there wouldn't even be a movie then either. But yeah, it's like there's just so much film history that's just completely gone.
Gone, yeah. Which is why I'm all for film preservation now. And you see the way these fucking companies and streaming services are just like, oh, we're gonna not have these series on our on our services anymore. It's just like, okay, well, you own the rights to them. Where else are they gonna fucking go?
I mean, at least like the Witches remake got a DVD release before it got delisted.
Right.
So like that can't become lost media now because like we at least have physical copies of it that people can just copy and distribute there.
Yeah. I think people are smart where they are creating copies of these series and movies that are, that have been distributed at one point and are now taken away. Like I'm sure the copies of them exist somewhere.
Yeah, because people are recording them on digital, and like again, like
Right.
the Witches remake that got a official DVD release.
Right, exactly. And not to say that like, we're preserving these because they actually happened. I know like I'm sure a majority of them suck. Like, I'm sure the Witches remake like sucks, but like
yeah, I heard it sucked, but like the fact of the matter is at least that
Yeah.
that got preserved.
That got preserved, which is good. I'm all for that. I like no matter how bad something is, I want it to be preserved. Like again, I fucking despise Birth of a Nation. I'm glad we still have it around because if we were to not preserve it anymore and we just lose it to time, we're ostensibly saying it never happened, which is not true. It did happen.
And like we need to know that for educational purposes of hey, the shit that happens here is not okay.
Right.
But also because that is like an important part of film history too.
Right. Because it was
unfortunately a part of film history.
Of course, unfortunately, but that's just the hand we were dealt with.
Yeah.
So
stuff like that should be available for educational purposes.
Exactly. I've seen all 3 hours of Birth of a Nation. It was years ago, and it was, fun fact, the very first movie I ever gave a half star in Letterboxd. So,
Lamau.
It's so boring. But speaking of not boring, Sherlock Jr.
Yeah, let's talk about the car chase.
We should talk about the car chase because holy shit! Like, well, this was before the car chase, but one of my favorite car stunts is when he's on top of the building and he goes onto like the train blocker and he like rides it all the way down and jumps into the backseat of the car. Like, holy shit. Am I right?
Now I need to quickly rewatch again to see that.
Yeah, no. Again, you can find this movie on YouTube, people. So like,
I'm looking at it on Wikipedia right now.
Oh, you're looking it up on Wikipedia.
I watched it on YouTube for the actual episode, but now to double check the footage, I'm looking at it on Wikipedia.
Yeah, but yeah, he's on top of the roof. He gets onto the thing. It like falls over, and he just jumps right into the car from it. It's dude, like it's so good. It's all in one take too. Like you would not see somebody do that like nowadays.
There's like the scene where like he's on like the car and like the big tracking long shots, and like he drives across the two trucks going underneath him.
Oh, dude, that kicked ass. I love that sequence so much. Cause like, yeah, you see, because I also love the setup, because that's the other thing too, is like how these stunts are filmed. Like, whether they're like setting up for like little things. Like especially what, yeah. So there is the sequence where he's on the motorcycle, on the handlebars of the motorcycle. So he's not like driving this motorcycle. He's on the handlebars the whole time, and there's so many shots of him nearly getting hit by cars.
I like the part like towards at the end of the chase too, where like he hits the logs and gets flown for the window and just drop kicks the dude
Yeah,
accidentally.
that was great. But yeah, like you said, the two trucks. Yeah, so you have this like weird bridge thing where there's like a gap, where like cars can drive through, and so then like these two trucks driving in opposite directions like drive up through this gap, and as they're in the gap, he comes in and he like drives over both of them on the motorcycle. Like, holy shit, dude. Like, first of all, the fact that they had to like do mathematics to make sure both trucks could fit in between those, not just in between those, but that there's still enough space in between everything where the trucks can drive through and have enough time for him to like make it over that. Like, it really defies like explanation. Like, you just have to see it to believe it. Like, that's the thing. And then like, oh, and then like, of course, like the bridge like falls over and he keeps going. It's like, oh, it's really really impressive.
God, what else to talk about with this one? Other than just tell people to watch it, it's 40 minutes long.
It's 45 minutes long. It's on YouTube. Like, I linked
Yeah.
it in my recent letterbox log for it. I'll probably link it in the description. Like, it needs to be seen.
You can
Like
get a
I
physical copy of it. You can watch it on the Wikipedia article.
Yeah, you can
Which,
watch it on Wikipedia.
if you watch it on the Wikipedia version, there won't be any music at all. But like other places, you'll have a score to go with it.
I recommend the version with the score, which I think the
Yeah,
YouTube upload is the one that the Cohen Film Collection put on their Blu-ray. I'm pretty sure that's it.
probably.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. I don't recommend the Alpha Video Collection release. I bought this thinking, oh, because like, oh, it's a DVD that actually advertises Sherlock Jr. itself, even though it comes with 3 extra shorts. Oh, here's a real kicker. So you'd think this DVD release would be from like, the early 2000s, right?
It's really what 2008, 2009.
It's from 2020.
What the fuck, Alpha Video? I thought they died.
I know, which is fucking bizarre. It's like a DVD release. Like, I know movies still get released on DVD nowadays. Like fucking CIA has a DVD release.
Right, but I thought the Alpha Video was like a company from like the end of the 90s and just the 2000s. I thought they would have been dead by now.
I know, you'd think this is like from the same era as like the 50 of the greatest cartoons VHS tape. Like, yeah, the 90s into like the 2000s, but no, it's from 2020. And just the quality sucks. Like, it's so obviously they got like the lowest quality they could find. They probably found like a VHS tape rip and just like
Yeah.
ripped it onto a disc. And again,
But
like I
also, it's
said,
like there's no reason to buy that though, because like if you're in the market for something like that, you're probably looking online. You're not going to find this like Walmart or Target. And if
right.
you're online, you can just go to Kino's website and buy the Cohen version.
Right, exactly. I think I did get this through like Walmart or Target. I actually don't remember, but like I did get it, and I'm just like, because thinking like an idiot, like, oh, this is gonna be, great, but no, it sucks because again, like I said, the fucking score they use is just this continuous loop of generic silent film score. So, you know what? I was thinking of keeping this just for the gag, just to be like, oh, it's like a cute silent film like DVD collection DVD, but no, this
But
sucks.
no, you
Like,
have a better version already
I
anyway.
have a better version and the quality sucks too much. Like, again, like after watching the Blu-ray version, it was night and day. Like the quality, not only the quality of the visuals, the quality of the score, the music. I will argue the music in a silent film matters a lot when it's done correctly.
Because it's all you have.
Right, exactly. So, uh I mean, we've pretty much talked about everything on this DVD, so I can just say, like, I'm getting rid of this fucking DVD.
But you're keeping the Blu-ray.
I'm keeping the Blu-ray. But I don't know. Is there anything else to talk about with Sherlock Jr. specifically before
I
we
mean,
talk a little about
like,
Navigator?
just in brief, like overall, like I think this is also like if you're on the fence about trying to watch silent movies, because like I get it, without the sound effects and stuff, it can be hard to follow and
Yeah.
get into. But like I feel like something like this, it's easy to wean yourself into that mindset to watch a silent film.
Yeah, which is why I've always advocated like silent comedies are the best. They have aged the best when it comes to the silent era. I still think watching films from the silent era is important, even if they suck. Like, whether they're dramatic or thrillers or like whatever genre they are, I still think it's important to watch them. But to get yourself used to it, yes, definitely start with silent comedies. Like, there's other silent stars other than Buster Keaton, like Charlie Chaplin and Harold
Yeah.
Lloyd. But those are, they're different days. I'll talk about those
I
movies.
think like the original Little Rascals were from the silent era.
That sounds right. I don't know.
But yeah,
I didn't grow up with
like,
the Little Rascals.
but like, and overall, it's like this is from. This is just 40 minutes long. You have no
Yeah.
excuse.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so easy to watch. It's such a breeze to get through. Like,
Yeah.
and again, like
Public domain. It's free.
yeah, it's free. And it is a little weird with the story because, it kind of jumps all over the place, but each gag that it does is done so brilliantly. And, from like you were saying in your review, how like, like the little jokes where it's just like, I lost $1. Describe it. That's funny. The fucking visual gags. Those are funny.
And like again, this is like one of those things. Like it's a silent movie, so like if you haven't seen it and want to, you literally can just open another tab and watch it right now.
Yeah.
It's like if we ever did an episode on Night of the Living Dead, it's like, why are you watching this without having watched the movie? It's public domain. You can watch it on YouTube for free right now.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. I understand a lot of the movies we talk about are from my collection, and I'm pretty much the only sole owner of these movies because who the fuck else owns Pathfinder on DVD? Which is why, like, so whenever I tell people like, oh, we're going to be watching this movie, they're just like, all right, where can you find it? I'm like, shit. It's like,
you say that, but like when you show me the pictures of the things you have, like you had that Sci-Fi Creature Classics DVD. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I used to own that too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not worried about you finding this stuff. I'm worried about other people finding this stuff.
Like I literally have that exact same DVD. I don't have it anymore because I also have all of those movies in better formats now.
Right, exactly.
From the same company, but in different releases.
The same company, no doubt. Yes. But that's why we're saying like, no, like this is free. This is public domain. Go watch this. Like,
yeah,
it's out there. It's so easily accessible. And it's one of my favorites. So it's like, it's the best of both worlds. It's a film that I love with all my heart and I want people to watch, but it's easily accessible. Like that. I get it. Like access to movies are difficult. It's like we can complain that people haven't seen Heroic Times, but like Heroic Times is not that easy to get because it's available on Deaf Crocodile Blu-ray, which not everybody has access to that.
Yeah, and like again, that's also an example of We Are American. That movie is from Hungary.
Yeah, that too.
Whereas this is like it's a public domain film, so it doesn't matter where you are; you can just watch it.
Right. Exactly. So Sherlock Jr.
It's also why the public domain is important to keep around.
Yeah, it's more than just horror films. You know what? I'm glad they have not made a Sherlock Jr. horror film.
You can easily make a Sherlock Holmes horror film. I'm sure some of that stuff already borders into thriller and horror anyway.
I'm sure that exists. I would be shocked if that doesn't exist.
And again, like I've mentioned this in other places, but like all those horror films being made about the public domain properties, it's like, the reason those suck isn't because the idea of a Mickey Mouse horror movie is bad. They suck because the people making them don't actually like either Mickey Mouse or horror.
Right.
You could totally make a Mickey Mouse slasher movie work. Having like dropping fucking anvils on people, make it a horror comedy. I came up with a premise around like 5 minutes while doing my actual job. I'm like, damn. That is what I did in 5 minutes of actually thinking. Imagine if the people making this movie actually tried.
I can't believe the people who made Dinosaur Hotels 1 and 2 didn't try.
It's the same people from those?
Yeah. Do you know how heartbreaking that was? Because I fucking love Dinosaur Hotel, and they fucking made the Mickey Mouse. Maybe not the Mickey Mouse one. They definitely did the Winnie the Pooh horror films.
So it's like, is it like the actual same team though, or is it the same like studio production
It
company?
might be the same studio. I don't know. I recognize some names, is what I'm
Damn.
saying. Yeah, I know. Because we
The thing
love
is,
Dinosaur Hotel.
I'm hearing though that like apparently the second Blood and Honey actually is getting goofy or something, or actually is decent. So
Wow.
maybe that one they actually fought for something. Actually, that actually kind of just leads credence into my theory that it was a different movie altogether. They slapped the IP into.
Maybe, yeah.
Because
Whereas
if
like
this one actually is better in trying, it's like, oh, so that's what happens when you actually try.
right, exactly. Which look, I'm all for that. I haven't seen Blood and Honey 2 yet. I haven't seen the first Blood and Honey.
I'm not gonna
I'm
watch either because I don't care.
right. I mean, I might watch them at some point. I just don't care either. So like I'm not in any rush to see them.
You might be in a rush to rewatch Muck though.
Oh, dude. Absolutely.
Oh, Muck.
Oh, Muck.
You know who else went in some Muck?
Who?
Buster Keaton and the Navigator.
Yeah, well, you know what? We might as well talk about the Navigator. We've talked about the main movie already, but the Navigator, you know what? There, I'm glad I watched the Navigator too. I was a little annoyed before watching this Blu-ray because I'm just like, oh, Sherlock Jr. doesn't get its own Blu-ray release. It has to share it with the Navigator. But the
I mean,
Navigator, it's a fun movie.
I would like to have 2-on-1. That's nice to have.
Yeah, it is. It is nice. It's just I don't know. I don't know. I feel like because I love Sherlock Jr. so much, I kind of want it on its own release. But like, you know what? You're right. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because again, the
Damn, you
Navigator.
really want to spend money twice.
Because I love Sherlock. I would buy 100 of copies of these for Sherlock Jr. You don't want to know what I do for Sherlock Jr.
I like how his character's name in this is Rollo Treadway.
That's really funny.
I mean, it's something that was nice about these movies, though, that like I appreciated is the way they do the credits.
Hmm.
Because like they actually do it instead of having like in the beginning, like here's everyone in the movie. It's like they'll just start playing the movie, and as the character gets introduced, they say, "Here's what this character is about," and also here's who's playing them.
Yeah, which they kind of did that in Hundreds of Beavers, but not really because a
Well,
century
they
of
did,
film
yeah. They also
later,
did
like
that in like towards the middle of the film.
yeah, there's standards to have exactly.
Whereas this is like, oh, like here is this guy, Rollo Treadway.
Yeah,
He's gonna do some stuff. He's played by Buster Keaton.
he's an example that every family tree has its sap. I remembered that. That was great.
So the plot of this movie is he decides I'm gonna propose to my girlfriend
Yeah, because he sees
just
like
cause.
well, he sees a couple in a car outside. He like looks out the window and he sees a couple in their own car and they were just married. He's like, "Hey, that's a great idea.
I'm gonna get married today.
Today."
I'm gonna book the cruise for my honeymoon. There's all this stuff. There's just one problem. He forgot to actually propose.
Yeah, he forgot to actually propose.
Whoops.
Whoops, that little detail.
Hey babe, wanna get married today?
No.
No. Fuck. Well, I'm gonna go sleep on a boat now because I'm depressed.
Yeah, he's like, well, I might as well take the cruise. Which, so it's really funny. So at the beginning, they're like setting up all this like political turmoil. Because like they even say, like, oh, I bet you could never guess that a story of a boy and a girl could coincide with the political turmoil of two countries far away from them. It's like, what? What are you talking about? And then like they get into like, oh, what even happened with that, right? Because like,
What war?
yeah, what war? What countries? Like, it's so vague. Like, just put them on a boat, man. Like,
All that said, just to explain that, like, this is gonna be like a crew, like a boat to fight in that war, and like they're against us. So let's push the boat out to sea so the crew can't leave.
yeah,
Haha, gotcha, bitch.
but there's no crew on there. It's just Buster and
The girl who
his-
ends up there because like her dad owns a shipyard or something.
yeah. Which, by the way, Catherine McGuire is the lady in this movie. She's also the love interest in the last movie, so she was both love interests in these movies, which is really cool.
Well, these movies are both in the same year. They were made
Right.
back to back.
Made back to back, exactly. Yes. But yeah, so like then it's just them on the boat and hijinks ensue. It actually did remind me. I'm gonna play my pretentious card again. It reminded me of an early Hitchcock film. I believe it's called Rich and Strange. where it's basically about this couple, and they are like bickering and arguing, and they go on this cruise ship, and then for some reason they have to, like, the cruise has to abandon ship, but then the two of them are left alone. I don't remember why. Might have been
I was
because
gonna,
they were sinking. I don't
I
remember.
was gonna say, remind me of a bunch of Free Stooges gags.
That too, that too. But what I'm saying specifically, like the husband and the wife, or like, you know, the man and the woman are left alone on this boat. And I remember watching Rich and Strange. It's awful, by the way. I did not like the movie, but like there is a sequence more towards the end where, like, you know, the two of them are left alone on this boat. And it was probably the best part of the movie where, like, you know, they're like helping each other, you know, even though they've been bickering the whole movie, they kind of have to work together to survive on this boat. That's sort of similar here because, you know, he proposed to his girlfriend, she said no, and so now the both of them are like alone on this ship together, so it's like incredibly awkward.
Yeah, and he still tries to propose again once he finds her on the boat
Right.
after the glorious Scooby Doo chase sequence.
Oh, the Scooby-Doo chase
You know,
sequence.
when I watched that scene, I actually like at one point I started over and I watched it with the Baby Park music from Mario Kart Double Dash. So they're just like running around going da 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 da, and it fit perfectly.
That's awesome. Well, because I love the sequences when they're actually on the boat and they're like, you know, walking around, like trying to find each other. And then like when they're trying to like make breakfast, like it leads to some hilarity. And then they're trying to like sleep.
Saltwater coffee.
Saltwater coffee.
Quick, let's light some candles. Lights a firecracker. Oh, here's some other candles.
Roman candle.
Candles. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, no, it's, oh my god. But
it
what
doesn't run at the end, so that's nice.
yeah, what I love about that sequence though is that like they're just like it's leading to some comedy where they're just like falling on their face. There's this one sequence that really like intrigued me, and that was the record player gag they had where they like played a record, like it accidentally like started playing a record because I don't know, like the ship was like tossing and turning and like the record player started playing, and because it's a silent film you can't hear what the song is saying, so like they like open up the record player at the bottom, and you can definitely tell where they cut it off in the shot where they like superimpose like the lyrics there, and then it cuts to them like like trying to fall asleep, and they hear the lyrics like in universe, and they're like starting to get like really worried because the lyrics are just like you're gonna die out here or something like that, you know.
Yeah, like a ghost story.
It's a really wild segment that I was not expecting in a silent film because again it's a record player, like you can't really do sound gags like that, but for what they could pull off I think it was really clever.
I just like the whole conceit, like the first half of this movie is that these two people are completely incompetent at doing anything and just fucking up the whole time. And
Yeah,
then it cuts to 1 month later when suddenly they're like super geniuses with Rube Goldberg machines everywhere to
I was
make
gonna say,
everything.
yeah, I was
Like,
gonna say, like that's amazing.
you guys don't know how to make hard boiled eggs, but you can build a Rube Goldberg machine that can make hard boiled eggs.
Yeah, again, to bring up Hundreds of Beavers again, it's very much like Hundreds of Beavers, where like they start off as like this dumbass, but then like you see them evolve over time to like make make things work in their favor.
And like it's a good comedy for the most part there. Like, yeah, this is a
Yeah.
fun time. It's
Mm-hmm.
60 minutes long, so it's still breezy. The
Mm-hmm.
only weird things like at the end where they like go to an island and because it's 1920s, there's a bunch of cannibals there.
Yeah, the
And like
Cannibal Tribe.
it's very blatant stereotypes of the time.
Very much so, yeah.
I'm just glad that looking at them like, okay, these actually do just like black people instead of blackface, so at least there's that.
There's that, yeah. It was very much, it was very like kind of like King Kong, where like,
Yeah.
okay, it's still
Well,
offensive.
you told me
but
that like apparently like the chief though actually was in King Kong apparently.
yeah, according to Letterboxd, he was in King Kong, he was in The Mummy, he was in Son of Kong. Like he's like, and again, he has a great name, Noble Johnson.
Yeah, badass.
That's such a badass name, Noble Johnson.
Yeah, let's look up his whole filmography here. Intolerance. He was in the 1916 25 Leagues Under the Sea. Let's see. The Dolan of New York. The Red Ace as Little Bear.
He was in the original Ben-Hur from 1925.
He was in the original 10 Commandments from 1923.
Oh, he was in Jungle
Dante's
Book.
Inferno.
Oh, that's later.
Ben-Hur. The King of Kings.
He was in Moby Dick from 1930. Okay, what?
Yeah,
what
The Mummy, the most dangerous game, which the most dangerous game was filmed on like a lot of the same sets as King Kong.
Yeah, 1932. Ernest B. Schoedsack.
Escape from Devil's Island.
These are great titles.
Frontier Pony Express. Green Hell.
Green Hell? Wait.
No, you're thinking of the monster from Green Hell.
I'm thinking of Monster from Green Hell.
A Game of Death. Along the Oregon Trail.
10 Gentlemen from West Point.
His final role was North of the Great Divide.
Wow. Yeah, no, holy shit. Like, this is quite the career,
my man had a career.
Yeah, Noble Johnson.
Noble Johnson.
He had a noble career.
Oh, he was in Murders in the Rue Morgue, apparently.
No kidding.
Yeah.
My.
And again, Noble Johnson, that's just a badass name.
Such a badass name.
But yeah, so like there's stereotypes of like the natives trying to steal them to eat them. And it's like, it's reminiscent of like the scene in King Kong where they're trying to kidnap Anne.
Yeah.
But here it's like all played for comedy and it's like a bunch of them.
Yeah.
There's a scene where like after they cut the ladder, they take a tree and try to use that as a ladder.
That was funny.
Yeah. The thing of that with the version I watched, like they actually added in sound effects for when the coconuts get thrown from the monkey.
Nice. Oh yeah, there is a monkey in this one too.
Yeah, someone gets hit in the head with a coconut and there's like a bonk in the score. Like not a sound effect that was added in post, but like they play a bongo or something for that scene.
Yeah, of course. It might have been in my version as well because
because I'm pretty sure I saw the Cohen logo in the front of my copy.
Yeah, that's the thing, Cohen. So they're through Kino Lorber, correct?
Yeah, that's where I see their stuff.
Yeah,
for sale a lot of the time.
I'm pretty sure that's where I got this Blu-ray because I'm pretty sure we were having this conversation and like one day I was just like, I got to get this Blu-ray instead of the DVD that I have.
Yeah.
I will say, to go on a little bit on this Blu-ray, it kind of bothers me. The amount of commercials and trailers that play at the beginning of this Blu-ray were just they were obnoxious. Now,
how many were there, and what were they for?
There was like 4 or 5. Now, in fairness, there are trailers and commercials for other Cohen Film Collection like releases, and because they also have just like commercials to be like the Cohen Media Group, like we have old films, new films, and international releases. It's like, yeah, that's cool. Can I get to my fucking movie, please? Like, I don't care about this. Like, I don't know. It was something I thought would just be on like, standard movie releases, standard movie like physical media releases like Sony and like stuff like that. Because we've talked about that before. But like, I did not expect a Blu-ray boutique label to pull that shit.
Like that for major companies nowadays, it doesn't even happen all often anymore. They just like the opening logos and then you have the menu.
Mm-hmm.
The company I see do it the most, from my knowledge, and like this is a different way, is for Discotheque Media. They always will play like a sizzle reel set to the song. I forgot the name of the song, but it's by the guy To Live and Die in L.A. I think is his name or something. Maybe that's the name of the song. I forget which one, but like they play that song at the beginning of every release from them, and it's a sizzle of all the most up-to-date releases from them.
Right.
They'll also show the sizzle like when they do the live streams announcing things.
Right.
But like even then, it's like that's a 2-minute thing, and it's the only thing in front of it.
Yeah.
And you get to listen to that song, so there's that.
Yeah. Again, it's like a minor nitpick. Like I can just skip through all these trailers, much like I can skip through them on my Drive Blu-ray, but it's still just something I didn't expect to see on a Blu-ray release like this, which is like, bragging about the fact of how much it loves cinema. I don't know.
And like with Discotheque, it's also because it's anime.
Yeah.
It feels like you're watching an anime AMV, which is probably the point. Because it's this overly 80s synthwave music playing over anime from the 80s and 90s.
That kicks ass. That sounds awesome.
But so the end of the movie, after they fight off the natives, they try to swim away, and they sink because they're just letting the water take them, and then a submarine shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
And
like
that's the end of the movie.
well, they go into the submarine and like
Yeah.
he
He
like
fucks up and like spins them around a million times.
which was really cool. I'm like, oh, that's like like the
Yeah,
Inception
rotating room.
hallway kind of thing. Yeah, rotating room. Like, oh, it looked really cool. Again, for the time, like this was 1924. This was a century ago, and they could do that.
Yeah. I mean, the scene I was thinking of for rotating a room is like in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh,
And it's sort of saying like that you don't actually see the room rotating yourself, but like it's a rotated room effect.
right.
I'll point that out for you later if you don't
Oh,
figure it out on your own.
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Anything else? Oh yeah, we have to talk about the poster shows him in the diver suit, so we have to talk about that whole sequence because that's also very impressive.
Yeah, when he's like actually underwater.
Yeah,
I'm
because they
pretty
actually
sure.
had to film that underwater. He is actually underwater.
Yeah, which I thought was really cool. I didn't think you could do that back in the day.
Yeah, I didn't think they would have like underwater cameras yet, but no, apparently they did because like no, those are actual bubbles. They must be actually underwater, and yeah, they are. They
Yeah.
were filmed most of it in fucking Lake Tahoe.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't expect them to actually film in the middle of the ocean for that.
Yeah. But like still like damn, you're actually underwater, you have actual props you're dealing with, and like
Yeah.
you're in a fucking lake, so it's freezing cold doing this because
Yeah.
it's said like in the trivia for the movie, like, yeah, to cope with the cold weather in the cold waters of the lake, they drink bourbon.
They drank bourbon.
So he's also drunk right now. Oh,
Based?
Buster.
More like based or Keaton.
Filming our comedy in the bottom of a lake. Give me some bourbon.
Give me some bourbon.
So yeah, like very impressive for the time.
Absolutely.
Because nowadays you won't even film underwater at all. You just do CG on a blue
You
screen
just do,
instead.
yeah, you just do CG. Yeah.
It's like again, like you actually had to do this shit back then. And nowadays it's like so. And I get if like some things obviously you want to use CG, like especially for like underwater stuff. But then it's like I go in about this all the time. The bar scene in Black Widow. Because it's like, why did you have to green screen in a bar?
Yeah.
And like I hear the excuses of, oh well, it's so that it was easier for them to change in post. My counter argument to that: one, it's a fucking bar. What do you have to change about that? That's just how they look.
Yeah, they
And
look
two,
dingy and dark.
you wouldn't have had to change anything if you were confident about the movie you were making in the first place.
Right. Don't film a scene with windows.
My thing isn't the matter of the fact that they're using CG at all. The problem is that it's unnecessary CG because you could have just went to a bar and filmed it, and it would have been cheaper than actually having a green screen it in for the visual effects, and you're just making the budget bigger for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
My problem isn't the fact that it's bad CG. Yeah, you can't notice it. That's not the point. The point is, why did you have to do it in the first place?
It's ridiculous the amount of no, you're absolutely right, because you're just like, what was the actual point of this? Like, what did you need to CG in?
It's a bar, and that's just what bars look like. They're dingy and dark. It's two people sitting at a table.
We live in America. There's plenty of bars to choose from.
Yeah, COVID, whatever. There's like 5 people in there for that, and 3 of them are crew.
Yeah.
What does it matter?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't necessarily affect the story, but it definitely.
No, it doesn't. It's just now once you know that they did that, it's like, why
Yeah.
did you need to do that?
Yeah,
and
now
then,
you're thinking about it.
And you look at the budget for these movies, and it's like, these movies did not need to actually cost $200 million.
No.
You could have gotten that. You probably could have cut that down like 50%.
And even then, 200 million, and it still looks like that. Like, where's all the money going?
Because of the deadlines. It's just it's to make it fast, not good.
Yeah, no, like I've been saying, the movies we're talking about are near like a century old. Sherlock Jr., a century old today at the time of us
Yeah,
recording this.
and the effects look good.
The effects look
Like
good.
the actual film quality, because of it being damaged, sure, but like the actual effects are still impressive.
Right. But my point is, 100 years from now, are we going to be looking back at these movies, like the movies that came out recently, in the same vein as us looking back at Sherlock Jr. 100 years ago from here? I don't think so. Like, I don't like. We barely remember Black Widow, and that came out 3 years ago, give or
Yeah.
take. So
Like Jurassic Park looks better than like a lot of things nowadays, because like the way they used the CG
yeah,
was only when they actually needed it. They still used props and stuff for things they could get away with it on.
yeah, exactly. So, look, I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to be the cliche of like, oh, modern movies suck. It's like, you know what? This week, recently released Hundreds of Beavers. I'm bringing it up again, but like that movie
Even
kicks
if we want
ass.
to talk about like modern big name movies, like the Dune movies are probably some of the
The
few
Dune
that
movies.
actually like
Yeah.
advertise themselves as big, huge spectacles, like
Yeah.
make you feel like they're the biggest things ever, that actually kind of land with that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, these movies actually feel big.
Yeah, those movies look great. But like even then, Hundreds of Beavers, that does use like digital effects, but it also uses practical effects. Like,
Yeah.
and it looks great. It obviously looks like a movie, but that's kind of the point. Like they're
Like
going for a
it
specific
looks
style.
fake because it's supposed to look fake. It's a
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah, it's all a joke. It's all a
Like
joke.
it's all artificial, so it all fits together.
Right. Exactly. So I'm not trying to I'm not trying to shit all over modern movies because they don't make them like they used to. You need to
It's
find
like,
these movies.
yeah, and it's like, why did Godzilla -1 win the special effects Oscar?
Because it
Because
looks great.
yeah, it looks great. They used the CG correctly. They only did it for things they actually needed to.
Exactly. And I'll say this. I've been saying this. Like there were some points during -1 where I'm like, oh, like I can definitely tell when it looks CGI-ish. But those were like few and far between. When the actual sequences that where the money went to, I'm just like, oh, now I get it. But even still, like the stuff that looked more obvious, quote unquote, looks a lot better than a lot of what I've seen in major movies, major Hollywood stuff. So like, yeah, no, that movie absolutely deserved VFX. Not just because, it necessarily looks the best, but the fact that it was clever in how it used like its special effects in that regard.
Yeah, there's like they made a good like they actually pushed on the YouTube channel a good video about like explaining like how they did some of this stuff. Like, oh, we couldn't actually like have like that thing that like shakes the whole boat for those scenes, so we actually just had to move the camera around for
Yeah.
that. And like other techniques they did, they specified, yeah, part of the reason why it only cost 15 million was because the director of the movie was also the special effects head.
Right.
So we cut out the chain of command where like the director is just straight up on the floor the whole time with the VFX team, helping them with shots and working on the stuff himself.
And the director is experienced in special effects. Like he is a VFX artist. Yeah.
So like it comes back around. Like
it comes back around.
Yeah, you do have to go with like 5 people to get to the director for approvals. The director's in charge of the VFX here. So he's just right next to you, going around on his wheelie chair, saying, yeah, that shot's great. Put it in the movie.
I love that sequence of him like going around on the wheelie chair and it's like speeds up. Yeah. That was great.
And then you put that up against like Napoleon shooting at the pyramids. Lamau.
Wait, is there a sequence? Are we talking about the Joaquin Phoenix Napoleon movie?
The one that just came out, there's a scene of them in Egypt firing at the pyramids.
Yeah.
There's a strip shooting cannonballs at the pyramids.
Oh.
And like I think like Ridley Scott said, like, yeah, we don't think Napoleon actually did this, but it was an effective way of saying he took Egypt.
Oh.
It's like, bro, what?
Oh, Egypt and recent releases.
Come closer.
And I just can't. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
Some people might know what we're talking about.
Oh, some people. Yeah, if you know, you know.
What else to say about the Navigator?
I think we've pretty much covered it all that we can. I feel like we talked about a lot more than just these movies, but again, these aspects we were talking about do play into why I love these movies, especially Sherlock Jr. Like, I love Sherlock Jr. and The Navigator too, because, you know, you feel the effort that was put into making everything look the way it needs to look. And I appreciate them far more than like a lot of like recent releases that just, you don't feel like there was thought put into how they like will film something. Like, not saying that effort wasn't put in, but like, you know, like there's a feeling you get a feeling when you watch some things and you're just like, I don't really feel this. So with Sherlock Jr. and The Navigator, but mostly Sherlock Jr., I feel that. I feel it in every square inch of film.
So yeah, good movies.
I agree. I'm keeping this Blu-ray.
Again, public domain. You can watch it.
Yeah, go watch it right now.
For free.
Free.
There's the plug for the episode. They're free. Just watch them.
Yeah.
You don't really have an excuse.
You don't have an excuse. Well, is there anything else you want? You want to plug something else there, William, or no? You just want to plug that?
I need to get lunch.
Yeah, I'm hungry too. So we can end right now. So thanks everybody for watching. Go watch Sherlock Jr.
And watch Muck.
And watch Muck. It's on Tubi, also free. You have to watch ads, but watch Muck 2015. Oh boy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.